Good evening, Information and Intimidation Service. Can I help you? Yes. Yes. Is there a gang actually breaking your windows at the moment? I wonder, could I have your name and address, please? Yes. 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 What time did they actually arrive at? Yes. Well, I'll pass on this on to the police concerned. Well, you just hold on there and the police will be with you in a moment. Not at all. We'll do this as quickly as possible. Bye-bye.
Well, there's a number of different ways in which people are intimidated. They're intimidated by people of the other side, as it were, who come in and frighten them, and they have to get out because they're scared and they feel that they're exposed to attack. And then there are people of their own side who come along and say it's going to be dangerous around here and you had better get out, and encourage them to get out, and in fact create a sort of situation of hysteria in which they've got to get out. And then there are those who are perhaps have not been approached by anybody but who now are very afraid by the total situation, and they leave of their own accord. So it's a kind of cumulative effect. But I think that there has been some elements of design, in as much as people are saying, or people have said, the time has come when we must withdraw to the lager. We can no longer afford to have these little outposts dotted about. We must look after our own in our own areas. And I think that's something that's emerging from it.
you describe the situation in the centre of Belfast from a commercial point of view?
Well, I think one has to realise that the centre of Belfast is rather a particular problem. This is where the recent wave of violence has had its main effect. In the centre of Belfast itself, of course, there are certain categories of people who have been very badly hit. Publicans, cinema owners, and I think in particular the small shopkeeper.
Many cases recently of people putting businesses up for sale or to let in the centre of Belfast?
Not specifically. This, I think, is a longer-term action which may result from the Troubles. At the moment, we've had inquiries from people, of course, who've been burnt out, who want to know what action they can take, what relief the government can give them, and this, of course, is available, and I think people now know about this.
Is it possible to put any sort of figure on the losses that have been suffered by the shopping community?
I don't think it's really possible to do this at this particular stage. There have been estimates about the amount of damage which has been suffered, but I think the more important thing is the long-term business, which is the question of a loss of business confidence. And this, I think, is something where we haven't really felt the full effects yet.
How do you set about restoring confidence?
I think that the immediate problem is the question of law and order, and I think that there's a great desire amongst the people in Belfast to get this sorted out. Once this is done, I think we have a reasonable chance of trying to get together with all sections of the community to try and resolve the long-term problems, which are, of course, very deep-seated.
Now, these are sort of one-man businesses, shops and things like that. What about industry in general?
Well, I think that the larger companies, of course, have not been affected in the same way as the smaller ones. They're better geared to deal with unusual happenings. I think the people who've had the biggest effect are, of course, the small shopkeepers and the small businessmen.
No, silver.
Until we are seen clearly to get in control of the security situation, this will inhibit further investment, and it must have an adverse effect on any kind of commercial, industrial, or indeed retail activity. It's as simple as that. But I think, assuming that at the moment we can contain this situation, first of all, in terms of propaganda, we must get things into perspective. I'm sure you people in the media will do that. It is that industry and commerce is largely unaffected, miraculously. New investment heavily affected. And there is, of course, a reluctance to come to Northern Ireland at the moment. The urban guerrilla activity is affecting retail shopkeepers. But that's a temporary thing, and that's a very elastic situation, which if in fact the situation improved in terms of control, would rectify itself very swiftly.
Is that we know perfectly well that there are firms in England who have decided
down to the economy at this moment, certainly by the Jellic night bombings in the city centre. What can be done to restore confidence and to try to promote new industry?
Well, we have this very fine and very brave exhibition, Ulster 71, whose theme is "By Our Skills We Live." industry, and in particular the CBI, of course, doesn't take any political sides. We've got to keep going as best we can. Certainly it would be idiotic to assume that there's been no effect at all on the general daily life of industry. But certainly we continue to produce, we continue to meet our orders, and that's how we feel about it, and we shall continue to do it.